Hello, this is Dr. Mears, and today we are going to be finding sums and differences of complex numbers. Before we do that, let's do a little warm-up of reviewing how we solve an equation by taking square roots and how we're going to simplify using I. Number one is r squared equals negative 89. So in order to undo a square, we have to take the square root because they're inverse operations. So the square root of r squared is r equals 89 is a perfect square. No, 89 is not a perfect. 89 cannot be divided by a perfect square. So my side work, all I'm going to take out is going to be the square root of -1, and I cannot do anything with 89. So this is just going to be plus or minus, let's do that one more time, plus or minus I times the square root of 89. Okay, number two, a squared equals -27. Let's take the square root. So a equals the square root of -27. Let's do some side work over here. I can factor out that -1. I can also take out a 9. That is the highest number I can divide 27 by. And then 9 times 3 gets me back to 27. So the square root of -1 is I. The square root of 9 is 3. And I cannot do anything further with the 3 underneath the square root, so I'm just going to bring everything down. Plus or minus, because remember, we're going to have two answers, a positive and a negative. I'm just going to rearrange it so that the real number, the whole number, is in front, the integer, should I say, and then square root of 3. Okay, number 3, x squared minus 7 equals -16. Let's add 7 to both sides. So I'm going to get x squared equals -9. Again, -9, we can factor out a -1, and we can take the square root of 9. So x equals plus or minus square root of 9 is 3. This is going to become I, and just again, a little rearranging where that 3 is to the left side of the I, so my answer is x equals plus or minus 3I. And number 4, 4x squared plus 3 equals -7. What I'm going to do is subtract 3 from both sides. So 4x squared equals -10. I'm going to divide both sides by 4. I'm going to get x squared equals -10 over 4. I'm going to take the square root, and when I do, I'm going to take the square root of the numerator and of the denominator. Everybody gets a square root. So x equals there's no perfect square that I can divide 10 by, so I'm just going to take out that I. Don't forget your plus or minus. And I'm just going to attach the square root of 10 because it can't be reduced any further. And then I can take the square root of 4. The square root of 4 is 2. So my answer is plus or minus I times the square root of 10. So plus or minus I times the square root of 10 divided by 2. Okay. So a couple notes about imaginary numbers. Square root of -1 is I. And complex numbers, we're going to learn about the standard form right now. And standard form is when we have our real number, which we're going to signify as A. So real number plus or minus our complex number, complex imaginary number, which is going to be represented by BI. And so remember, there are going to be two answers here. There's going to be A plus BI and A minus BI. So if you like to separate your two answers out like that, you can. And if not, this is a little bit confusing, you could write A plus or minus BI. So either way you like, the real number is A and our complex number is BI. So in putting those two together, we get A plus or minus BI. And if you want to write it out so that you see the two answers, that's absolutely fine. All right, how do we go about and simplify these? Okay, let's add and subtract. So my first thing for adding and subtracting, and I'm going to do a little side note over here. So the first thing I would do is to remove my parentheses. And then the second thing is going to be to add or subtract like terms. So just like we do when we add or subtract x's, 2x plus 3x, 2x and 3x, those are like terms. So 2i and 3i would be like terms as well. And that's what I mean by adding and subtracting like terms. So let's try a few. Number 5, we have 5 minus 3i plus 8i. Let's remove our parentheses. So we're just going to do 5 minus 3i plus 8i. That's all. There's no number outside of these parentheses, so I can just simply remove them. And so we're ready to go. Now let's combine like terms. We have negative 3i plus 8i. So I'm just going to simply bring down the 5. Negative 3i plus 8i gives me positive 5i's. So my answer is 5 plus 5i. So notice a is the real number. Bi is our complex number. And now we're just adding or subtracting, so this is going to be just this answer. When we solve, we're going to see that we have these two answers. So in solving, just like we solved here, and just like we solved here, we are going to have those two, but in adding and subtracting, we're just going to have one because we're just simplifying. We're not solving anything. All right, number 6, negative 8 minus 6i minus 3. So I'm going to remove my parentheses. And then I'm going to add and subtract like terms. Like terms here I see are negative 8 minus 3. So I'm going to get negative 11 minus 6i. That's it. Let's do number 7. Removing my parentheses, I minus 5i. Those are like terms. So I minus 5i is 4i. And there's your answer. And number 8, 4i plus 2i. So how many i's do I have? You got it. 6i. And we're good. Okay, so let's remember these two things because we are going to get into some more intermediate examples. So let's flip the paper. Okay, number 9. Oh, we can do this. If you want to pause and try the ones that you know right now, you can, and then come back and check the answers. You're more than welcome to do that. I will do all of the work out here so that you can see how each one is done. So the choice is yours. We have negative 7i plus 8i, and that's just going to give us I, because negative 7 plus 8 is just 1. And you could put the 1 in. You don't have to. I'm just going to leave it out. It's just I. That really means 1i, either one you want. Negative 2i plus I, so negative 2i plus I. Again, we can combine these like terms, so we're just going to get a negative I. If you want to put your 1 in, absolutely fine. I am going to remove it because this is how you're going to most likely see it when I write it as negative 1i. All right, now we're getting into removing parentheses, but we're not just simply adding. We have a subtraction here. So in order to remove these parentheses, we check it out. Here there is a positive 1. If you have a positive 1, you can simply remove your parentheses. So just look to see if there's a number attached by multiplication. If it's positive 1, remove them, you're good to go. So that removed those. So now we're just looking at negative parentheses 2 plus 3i. This is really a negative 1. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to distribute it. So negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Negative 1 times 3i is negative 3i. So you need to be careful of when we're subtracting because you are going to have to distribute that negative 1. Okay, now let's combine like terms. I like to do first my real numbers. So I like to combine 3 minus 2. And 3 minus 2 is 1. So those are out. I now have positive 2i minus 3i. Positive 2i minus 3i is a negative 1i. So I'm going to write it as 1 minus I. All right, again, number 12. Looking here, we just have a positive 1. We could remove those parentheses. Here we're subtracting, so we are going to have to distribute that negative 1. So we can't simply remove parentheses. We're going to have to do negative 1 times 6, which is negative 6. Negative 1 times negative 5 is positive 5i. Now, a lot of teachers like to say, there's this minus on the outside of the parentheses, so everything in the inside changes to its opposite. So 6 goes to minus 6, minus 5 goes to plus 5. You can think about it like that as well. Either way you choose, you just have to make sure that you are handling that negative correctly or that minus correctly. Okay, let's combine our real terms. 4 minus 6 is going to be -2. That's out. Positive I plus 5i. So remember, this is a 1. So 1i plus 5i's gives you positive 6i. So our answer is -2 plus 6i. All right, moving on. Let's look. We have a positive 1. Oh, yay, we're adding, so positive. So we can just simply remove these. I love addition because we can remove those. Let me pause here for a second, though, because here, when we remove them, do you see how we have plus a minus? So just make that minus. It's going to keep your life much easier. And then again, minus 4i. So you really are just removing the parentheses. And so what's in the parentheses? -6 minus 4i will come down, -6 minus 4i. So it just automatically gets dropped down, so you don't have to worry about that plus. Okay, let's combine our real numbers. So 7 minus 6 is going to give us 1. Out, out. Positive 2i minus 4i gives us a -2i. And we're done. Okay, let's remove these parentheses here. We have -4i. We can simply remove those. We have a plus. Excellent. So plus 7i. We get here, we see we have a minus, so we're going to have to distribute. So this is going to become -7 minus I. Let's combine our real numbers, and I just see that we have just one real number here, so I'm just going to bring that down. It's going to be -7, and then we're going to combine -4 plus 7 gives us 3, minus 1 gives us positive 2i. So what I really did, and if you want to use your calculator in this, remember this is a 1i, you could simply put in -4 plus 7 minus 1. And that gives you a positive 2. Don't forget to attach your I because that is the imaginary unit that you need to attach. So you could simply do it like that if you don't want to worry about your negatives. If you're just like, I want to use my calculator, much easier, go for it. Use your resources so that you don't have to make a silly mistake with negatives. Okay, number 15. We have a positive 1, so we can drop those parentheses. -3 plus 3i. We have no parentheses here, so just bring everything down. Let's take care of our real numbers. I see I have -3 minus 7 plus 5. And so that's going to give us, this is -10 plus 5 is going to give us -5. So those are out. Oh, I just have one imaginary unit left, so it's going to be plus 3i. Again, if you wanted to use your calculator for that because you're like, I don't even want to do that in my head, I want to use my calculator, absolutely fine. Go for it. It's good to use your resources. Okay, number 16. We could drop these parentheses, so 6 plus 2i. We can drop those, plus I minus 5. Let's combine our real numbers. 6 minus 5 gives us 1. Out, out. 2i plus I gives us 3i. So 1 plus 3i, and we are good to go. Number 17. Let's remove our parentheses. We can remove those in front. Here we see we have a minus, so let's distribute the -1. So this becomes positive 3 minus 8i. Let's not forget that little 8 on the back. Combining our real numbers, 7 plus 3 is 10, plus 8 is 18. Those are out. And then we have positive 3i minus 8i gives us a -5i. And notice I'm circling that plus sign and it's becoming a positive. I always do that just to make sure I'm keeping my signs correct. So I always circle that one in front. You'll notice me doing that a lot. All right, number 18. 5 minus 7i, can remove those. These, I need to take care of that minus. So this is going to become a positive 2 and a positive 5i. Here we have plus, so that's great. So this is going to be, let me just look inside the parentheses. This is a -6, so it's just going to come down as -6 plus 5i. So I just brought this -6 down and it became a -6. Keep it simple. Let's combine our real numbers. 5, 2, and negative 6. 5, 2, and negative 6 is going to give us 1. 5 plus 2 is 7, minus 6 is 1. Those are out. We have some terms here. We have 3i terms here. So negative 7i plus 5i plus another 5i. So that's going to give us positive 3i. Yay. Okay. Number 19. Let's remove these parentheses. Negative 7 plus 2i. We have a minus, so we need to distribute. So this becomes minus 2 plus I. No minus, so I'm going to bring down that minus 1, bring it right down, minus 4i. So you're really just rewriting what's inside the parentheses when you have that plus. Let's combine our real numbers. Negative 7 minus 2 minus 1 is going to give us negative 10. Oops, almost went too fast there. Positive 2, positive I, minus 4i. So 2 plus I is 3i, minus 4i's. It's going to give us a negative 1i. I'm just going to write it as negative 10 minus I. Number 20, we have 3 more, everybody. Hopefully I can make it under 20 minutes. We'll see. Negative I, we're going to have to distribute this. Minus 8 plus 3i. No need to distribute. Let's just rewrite what's in the parentheses. Minus 8 plus 8i. Combining our real numbers. Negative 8 minus 8 gives us a negative 16. Combining negative I plus 3i is 2. Plus 8 is 10 i's. Negative 16 plus 10i. And number 21, removing those first set of parentheses, we can, sorry about that. We can remove the second. And then this is minus 5i. Yay. And let's combine our real numbers. 2 minus 3 gives us a negative 1. So that's out. Negative I plus 6i minus 5i is going to give us, oh, that's 0i. Look at that. Negative 1 plus 6 is 5, minus 5 is 0. So we could just rewrite this as negative 1. That's it. That's our answer. You could leave it as a complex number, negative 1 plus 0i. You could leave it like that, but you reducing it, simplifying it down to negative 1 shows us that it turned into a real number. And my last one, our last one, negative 7 plus 7i. Oh, plus, so I'm just going to bring down what's in the parentheses. Negative 2, so minus 2 plus I. Oh, perfect, another plus. Minus 3 minus I. Combining those real numbers, I'm going to get negative 12. Combining the imaginary units, I'm going to get 7 plus that's 8 minus, so that goes back to positive 7i. Okay. Well, this has been complex number sums and differences. We added, we subtracted, we removed parentheses, we distributed negatives. I hope it helped and I hope you understand. Thank you.